typical shooting game will have hundreds of scattered projectiles and explosion particle systems that may end up slowing down your game, especially on low-end devices like VR and mobile. The first pooling system concept was introduced by Atari in the late 1980s and is still used today by many popular games. A typical pooling system goes through three stages: pre-warming, in which all necessary objects are instantiated, a prefab in Unity's context, disable all objects and feed them into the pool, typically a collection type such as a queue, stack, or a dictionary. Now when firing, get the next available object from the pool, disable and return it to the pool when no longer needed. The system will limit the number of instantiated objects in the scene by recycling them, which should also reduce the need for C# garbage collectors to kick in at some point and clean up idle memory allocations, causing a negative spike in the gameplay frame rate. Poseidon makes it easier for game programmers and designers to pool any game object, regardless of its type, utilizing Unity's scriptable objects. Here is a simple scene with a tank shooting a cube projectile, which is just a cube with a box collider and a rigid body component set to kinematic, since we don't want it to be controlled by the physics engine. Start by creating the projectile class game logic, or use what you already have. Let's have a lifetime variable that expires if no collision is detected. Now this is where we make the game object poolable. Implement the iGameObject pool interface, press Ctrl dot and hit enter to create the pool property, which we will use to send the game object back to the pool at the end of its life cycle, which in this case is either after 2 seconds or on collision, whichever happens first. You may also decide to induce some delay before returning to the pool, maybe to finish playing a particle or sound effect attached to the game object. Go back to the scene and attach the script we just created to the game object, and drag it to the projects folder to create a prefab and delete the game object in the scene. Now create the pool scriptable object and assign the projectile prefab to it, and let's set the pre-warm count to 30. That's it, your pool is ready. Now let's create a tank shooting script to fire from the pool and attach it to the scene game object. Get the pool and the fire point transform. Set the timer with a 1 second delay between shots. Now when shooting, instead of instantiating a prefab, simply get it from the pool. You will get the projectile game object deactivated, and this is where you reset its transform position and rotation before activating it. Back in the scene, assign the pool and the shooting point to the tank serialized fields and run the game. Note how the bullets get disabled and reactivated one by one when collided or get too old, 1 second in this example. The link of the asset will be in the video description. Have fun!